Today we're doing the half angle formulas. So if you look on your formula sheet that you were given, the yellow formula sheet, it says functions of the half angle. So you can see from these, of course you're going to write the formula down each time, but these have one little extra thing at the end that we need to consider. So when we're done with calculating the value under the radical, we need to go and figure out, is our answer positive or negative? And that's going to be a matter of what quadrant we are falling in with the half angle. So let's grab example number 1 here. And it says that theta is 330. Find the sine of half theta, the cos of half theta, and the, let me use the skinnier pen, the tangent of half theta. So remember, like I said in class the other day, these are all formulas. The very first thing you should be doing is writing down the formula. Just like if I asked you to find the area of a triangle, you would write down the formula and you would substitute in the base and the height. So here, write down the formula. Let's put this here. Write the formula. Okay, then you're going to substitute in what you know. So in this case, we are given theta is 330. So I'm going to put that right in there. So I have positive or negative square root 1 minus the cosine of 330 all over 2. Now the cosine of 330, if we QRS that, we're in quadrant 4, our reference angle is 30, and in quadrant 4 cosine's positive. So it's really the same as the cosine of 30, which is the square root of 3 over 2. So that's what I'm going to be subbing in there. 1 minus square root of 3 over 2 all over 2. Now that's a complex fraction under there. You can't leave it like that. What I'm going to do is multiply each part in here by 2. So this times 2. This times 2, and my denominator times 2. And then I have positive or negative square root, oh, you know what? I see I have square root of 4 on the bottom. Positive or negative square root of 2 minus square root of 3 all over 2. So now the question becomes, is it positive or is it negative? So what were we really looking at if we were doing half of 330? We were finding the sine of 165. That's half of 330. That's in quadrant 2 where sine is positive. So I'm going to choose positive here, not negative. So it's positive. Square root of 2 minus the square root of 3, all under the radical, all over 2. These get messy. Let's do the cosine of half of theta. Copy the formula down. All right, now in this case, because we're doing each of these, we already have done the side work here. We know our theta that we're summing in is 330. And we already know the cosine of 330. This is just a matter of learning the algebra here, what algebra goes with these problems. So I'm going to multiply each of these little parts by 2 again. To to simplify the complex fraction. And the square root of 4 will come out. As just 2. And now positive or negative, we already did that side work as well. We know we're really finding the cosine of 165. So cosine in quadrant 2 is negative. So my answer here is negative. Whoops, I actually want that to look like negative. And last but not least, the tangent of the half angle. Formula is first. It says 1 minus cosine of theta over 1 plus cosine of theta underneath that square root. Okay, look at right there. 1 minus the square root of 3 over 2. Over 1 plus the square root of 3 over 2. Multiply each of these by 2. That times 2, this times 2, this times 2, this times 2. That's so that we can cancel these denominators. This answer's looking wicked. So since we have that, we know one of the things that we would do is rationalize under the radical this denominator. And you know what? We know we're doing tangent of 165 because that's half of 330. We know we're in quadrant 2. We know tangent's negative. So let's just decide on our negative now. And we have 4 minus 2 radical 3. Minus 2 radical 3 again, plus 3 all over 4 minus 2 radical 3 plus 2 radical 3 minus 3. So let's simplify. On the top, we have 4 plus 3 is 7 minus 4 square root of 3. And on the bottom, we have 1. So I can just leave that like that. Bit messy, but that's what these are. So the first type of question that you can get is that you are actually just substituting in for theta. Okay? And we took care of that over here, figuring out the cosine of 330 after we subbed in 330. One interesting thing about these 3 formulas, don't know if you noticed it or not, but all they require is the cosine of the angle. So there's a little less work than maybe some of the other formulas. Let's take a look at a different kind of question. So this is giving us SOHCAHTOA information that the cosine of angle A is negative 3 over 5. We know that a cosine is an adjacent side over a hypotenuse. We also are told that angle A lies between 90 and 180. So now I know that that is quadrant 2. If I wanted to draw a picture and label my sides, of course I could figure out that the opposite is 4 by the Pythagorean theorem. All right. But first and foremost, they want us to find the sine of half A. And so really the first thing we should do is write our formula down to see what we need to plug in. So the sine of half A is going to be positive or negative, we'll figure that out in a minute, of 1 minus something over 2. So this question's different because I don't know angle A, but I do know the cosine of A. it's negative 3/5. So what I'm actually substituting in is negative 3/5. So let's do our algebra. We'll save the positive and negative to the end. I'm going to multiply each of these by 5 to clear that fraction. 3/5 times 5, 1 times 5, and 2 times 5 gives me 5 plus 3 over 10. So I have the square root of 8/10, or that's the same as the square root of 4/5, which is 4 radical 5 over 5. Now, positive or negative. I'll show you a little more work here on this so that you realize how I got that answer over there. Oops, square root of 4. Yep, I knew something wasn't right. So let's do the work. Square root of 4 over square root of 5, rationalizing, I get square root of 20, or I get 2 radical 5 over 5. That looks better. 2 radical 5 over 5. Okay. Yikes. And then, is it positive or negative? So in this case, we are told where the original angle lies. The original angle lies between 90 and 180. So if I'm figuring out where my half angle lies, I can just divide each part by a half. 90 divided by 2, or divided by 2, sorry, take half of it. 90 divided by 2 is 45. Angle A divided by 2 is half of A. And 180 divided by 2 is 90. So knowing angle A's location and what it's between helps me find where half of A is located, or what it's between. So 45 degrees to 90 degrees is quadrant 1. And in quadrant 1, everything's positive, and so our answer is positive. To do a little analysis at the end, it's very important. And I'm going to fix that on my paper here. Okay. Next question, another one of these. So let's practice that same idea. We are told here that sine of A is negative 24 over 25, and that it is between 180 and 270. So the original angle is in quadrant 3. Sine tells us the opposite is 24, and the hypotenuse is 25. And so by the Pythagorean theorem, you can find out what the other side is. Go ahead and do that. Take a moment. 24 squared and 25 squared, and subtract that over. Squared is 49, which means side A is 7. Beautiful. 7, or negative 7 if you're doing the directional. So we needed that because we know we're doing half angle formulas. You should know you're going to need the cosine of angle A in your formulas. We'll see that in a minute. So the cosine would be the adjacent over the hypotenuse, and we're in quadrant 3, so it's negative 7 over 25. So I can get this information right from my drawing. The question is asking us to find the cosine of half A. So write the formula down. Cosine of half A positive, negative, square root, 1 plus cos A over 2. So let's substitute in what we know. The cosine of A is negative 7 over 25. So 1 plus negative 7 over 25 all over 2. Make sure everything's under the radical there. So we have positive or negative to be determined. Square root of, I'm going to multiply everything by 25. 1 times 25. Those 25s cancel. And 2 times 25 gives me 50. Take away 7 is 18. Over 50. That's the same as 9 over 25. We're getting there. Which is 3/5. Now we got to decide positive or negative. Positive or negative. So, where do we go for a positive or negative? We need to know what quadrant the half angle is in. So starting with the full angle, divide everything by 2. 180 divided by 2. The angle divided by 2. And 270 divided by 2. So 90 to 135 is which quadrant? 90 to 135 is quadrant 2. We're doing the cosine in quadrant 2, which is negative. So the choice here between positive and negative is determined to be negative. Negative 3/5. Okay. Let's try 1 or 2 more of these, and we'll save 1 for class. So in example 4, it says, find the exact values. We know we're dealing with radicals for sine of half A, cosine of half A, tangent of half A. So those all have formulas. If the cosine of A is 1/9, that's handy because in each of the formulas it needs the cosine of A. So I'll simply plug in 1/9. For angle A is between 270 and 360. So if you want, right now you can figure out where half of A will be. Divide everything by 2. And 135 to 180 is quadrant 2. And you know, as we're going to be doing all of these in quadrant 2, only the sign will end up positive. So this one will end up positive. The cosine is negative in quadrant 2 and tangent is negative in quadrant 2. You can really figure out the sign plus or minus very early if you want to. So let's do the sine of half of A. Formula, well, the formula says positive or negative 1 minus the cosine all over 2. So we've already determined that it's positive. We know cosine of A in yellow over here. Cosine of A gets substituted by the fraction 1/9, and the rest is algebra. I'm going to leave the rest to you. Well, I'll finish this one. I'll leave the rest to you. With the fraction of 9, I'm going to multiply everything by 9. And I have 9 minus 1 all over 18, which is 8 over 18, which reduces to 4 over 9. I'm going to run out of room. And the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of 9 is 3. That comes out quite nicely, 2/3. And again, we knew it was positive 2/3. We chose positive because the half angle is in quadrant 2, where sine is positive. So you go ahead and do the cosine of the half angle, the tan of the half angle. Start with the formulas. We'll see what you have in class tomorrow. And then we'll tackle this example 5 as well and do some problems.